Hello, eco-fictologists. My name is Lovis, and today I want to talk about a question that I raised a couple of weeks ago in one of my videos. I've now done a video on why I think the gap exists between scientists and the public, and I've done one on how I think eco-fiction can bridge that gap, and now I want to talk about why that gap needs to be bridged in the first place. What are the dangers of leaving it unbridged, and just allowing the public to find scientific news wherever they prefer? This topic is really important just now as we find ourselves in the middle of a global pandemic, and you don't really have to look very far to see what I've been talking about happening right now. There's a demand on scientists for answers, and phrases like "most likely to" are being met with the response, "so you don't know for sure." The people twisting scientific information wouldn't have as much power to create doubt if there wasn't this gaping chasm between scientists and the public, and also policymakers and politicians. This applies to any field where scientists are asked for information, and then that information is interpreted or manipulated to serve a very different agenda, and I'm sure you can think of several examples of this right off the top of your head, and the fact that you can is sad, really. So, in the hope of doing my bit to call out the people, companies, and administrations who assume that the public cannot find and use a fact checker, I want to outline the realities and the dangers of allowing this gap between scientists and the public to remain. Because the gap is there, but it's not empty. You know those motorway crossings that kind of look like a big bowl of spaghetti? That's what the gap looks like. So on that happy note, let's get into it. I've said it several times, but I'm going to say it again. Scientific advancement is not publicly available, which forces the public to turn to other outlets to find scientific news. Many people get scientific news from social media platforms now, like Twitter or Facebook. And that is not to say that everything you find on these social media platforms is incorrect. I know a lot of scientists who are doing really great science communication work on platforms such as Twitter. But what I mean is that what you find on these platforms is not necessarily verified. Before anything is published in a scientific journal, it has to be peer-reviewed, so several people have had to sign off on that article before it was published. Information posted on a social media platform has not necessarily gone through that process, and people might not take the extra step to check. Something else that factors in is popularity. People are more likely to see posts that have gone viral, and that's not always scientifically sound information. If it is, that is a massive win for us. Go team! But the sad truth is that sexy, exciting half-truths are more likely to go viral than actual science, especially depending on who posted it. This can lead to people who are not actively looking for scientific news, only seeing the exciting, gone viral, hyped up stuff and taking it as truth. Studies have shown that people are less likely to care about the source of a piece of information when it's sandwiched in between funny cat memes and prank videos on a blended entertainment site like Facebook or Twitter. Leading people to look for their own science news also means that they're likely to look in the places that they already know share their views, values, and opinions. Our social networks tend to reflect us finding like-minded people and creating spaces where we feel safe and supported, but this often ends up reinforcing opinions and views that we already had. Sheril Kirshenbaum, who gave a TED Talk on this subject, which I will link in the description below, said that you could shop for your science. You can find any opinion that you want on any topic thanks to the internet. If we scientists can't make ourselves more relatable, then the public will stop asking us. They'll just tune out, stick with their own opinions, or follow the latest trend just because Gwyneth Paltrow has said it's science. Just a small note here, this video is supposed to focus on the dangers of not bridging this gap, so I have focused on the negative side of social media, but it can absolutely be used in a positive way, and it is being used in a positive way by many, many scientists. And that is worthy of its own video, which I very well might do, actually, to give it its own time. But I just wanted to put this here so it doesn't sound like I'm completely bashing using social media to communicate science, because that would be quite hypocritical of me, don't you think? Okay, moving on. More dangerously, the fact that the public seeks out other outlets for their science news provides opportunity for misinformation campaigns to take that scientific information and spin it in any way that suits them best. Thanks to the internet, there is a wealth of opportunity for misinformation spread from individuals, companies, industries that have an interest in hiding the truth from the public, who might profit from a little confusion or from a person's want to believe the more comfortable truth, either so they can sell a product or a belief or an action. The popularity of social media platforms has made it easier than ever for propaganda and fake news to reach a huge number of people with very little effort or cost. Misinformation campaigns capitalize on being more accessible than scientists are, and they take advantage of misunderstandings and confusions in language to create distrust in scientists. In contrast to scientists, they have mastered the art of public relations. Their messages are short, simple, clear, and repeated often. Make America great again. Who said that? Did you hear that? Because they understand how to speak to the public, misinformation campaigns are able to flood the outlets with falsehoods and uncertainties, so people start to lose trust in those outlets as well. A few years ago, a study was done on how Americans access their scientific news, and most of social media users didn't trust the science that they see on social media, but 33% of them said that it is an important source of scientific news. That doesn't sound good. But it means that even if misinformation campaigns don't actually convince their viewers, they've muddied the waters so that those viewers don't trust the real science either, and that is just as destructive. They have still won. There is also a danger in having a conversation where not all groups, mindsets, or opinions are represented. We want diversity in ethnicity, in background, in income, in occupation, in lifestyle, in everything. Because this conversation and this crisis affects everyone. We want everyone to be involved. The hope of most scientists I know in the fields of conservation and research on anthropogenic change is that their work will have some kind of positive effect, will help change the situation. But we provide the data. We usually don't implement the data. There are some who have managed to do both, but in general, we provide the data and then we go to someone who has the means of implementing that data. And that comes from policymakers in the government, funding bodies and research councils, and also work with individual environmental NGOs. The problem is that often these organizations do not reflect the diversity of people who are being affected. If we don't get better at involving everyone in this conversation, then decisions are going to be made by the few and might not actually benefit those who are most affected. Offering a space where anyone can interact with and respond to your research, maybe challenge some assumptions that you had and inspire new trains of thought, can only be beneficial. In the end, the main reason the public should be scientifically literate is that the public has power. What they believe translates to how they behave, what products they buy, and who they vote for. Scientists might like to think that we can save the world, but we really can't do it alone. We need the collective action of the public. Whew, okay. I know that was a lot of information and might have left you feeling a little bit deflated. Doing the research for this video definitely left me feeling that way, believe you me. So I'm going to end this video on a hopeful, positive note because the gap is shrinking. More and more scientists are taking action to bring their science to the public. And social media sites that are doing this well are gathering huge numbers of followers, which means that the public is engaged. And that is incredibly comforting to me. I'd love to hear what you think about this topic, so please leave any thoughts that you have in the comments below. I'm also happy for any recommendations and requests for topics for me to discuss on my channel. A couple of people have already reached out to me, and that is excellent. Keep them coming. I love hearing from you. While you're here, maybe like the video and subscribe, and then you'll get lots more content like this every week on a Wednesday. But that's all from me today, so I'll see you next week, Ecofictologists.